Kennedy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. About 90% of my personal philosophy is don't hurt someone unless they're trying to hurt you. Don't take other people's stuff, and leave me alone. So I'm pretty libertarian when it comes to gambling. Within reason, if someone wants to gamble, they can. But I do want to ask you this, Mr. Rebuck. Can you name me one form of legalized gambling where the House doesn't have a decided advantage?
The gambling industry always has the advantage, as you are correctly indicating.
Okay.
The point is that the consumers know that.
That's, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just don't
That's
have
what-
much time. Governor Baker, the NCAA exists in part to promote fair competition in collegiate sports, does it not?
Welcome to Liberty Trigger. What's up, my fellow patriots? I just watched one of the most unbelievable hearings I've seen in a long time. NCAA President Charlie Baker got absolutely roasted by Senator John Kennedy, and honestly, he earned every second of it, because this wasn't just about sports. It was about fairness, leadership, and what happens when weak men in powerful positions bow to political pressure instead of standing up for what's right. Senator Kennedy asked Baker a simple question: does the NCAA exist to promote fair competition? Baker says, yes. Then Kennedy asks, is a transgender woman a biological male? Baker says, yes. If you agree, hit that like button, share this video, and drop a comment below. Do you think biological males should be banned from women's sports? Yes or no? Now let's get into it.
Could you speak into the mic for me?
Yes.
Okay. A transgender woman is a biological male. Is that correct?
Yes.
And a biological male is always going to have a physical and a physiological advantage competing in a collegiate sport against a biological female. Isn't that true?
There's not a lot of research on it, but it's certainly debatable.
You think it's debatable?
I think it's debatable.
Wait, you don't think?
mean
think that a biological male has an advantage every time competing against a biological female? Is that your testimony?
No, I think defined the way you defined it, yes, I would agree with you.
So you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. So why does the NCAA, why do you, your job is to promote fairness in collegiate sports. Why do you support allowing transgender women who are biological males to compete against non-transgender biological females?
Over the course of the past 2 years, 5 federal court cases involving this question, let me finish. 5 federal judges have all sided with participation as the standard. This is a very...
So you're saying you don't have a choice?
I'm saying that under the current dynamic, there is not clarity on this issue legally.
Well, why don't you exhibit leadership and demonstrate leadership and provide clarity? If you agree with me
Well, first of all,
that the purpose of the NCAA is to promote fair competition, and if you agree with me that in every single instance, a biological male is going to have an unfair advantage over a biological female, then why don't you just say, look, in America you can be whomever you want to be, but in terms of fair competition in a collegiate sport, transgender women who are biological males are not going to be allowed to compete against non-transgender women who are biological female. Boom, done. Why don't you take that position, Charlie?
Because federal courts have already taken the position that they do have the right to compete.
Yeah,
5 times in
you
the past year and a
can disagree
half.
and be sued. Why don't you demonstrate some leadership?
I would love to work with you folks on creating clarity around
I'm
this
sorry,
question.
but look, I'm sure the NCAA is a good organization. I just can't figure out what you folks are good for. I know you take in bucket loads of money and you share some of it. You make that money off the backs of these kids. Your predecessor, who was a good man, took home $2.8 million a year in salary. I'm not going to ask you what you make, but I bet you didn't take a pay cut. You take in bucket loads of money. We got problems in collegiate sports with the transfer portal and the NIL and now gambling and biological males, you allowing biological males to compete against biological females. And you folks at the NCAA don't do anything except sit there, watch, cash your checks, and suck on your teeth.
I would argue that we've made a lot of progress on a bunch of those
Why don't
issues.
you take a position on transgender biological males competing against females? You just told me it wasn't fair.
There's a federal standard on this is one that we would work with you on if you wish to work on it.
Why don't you do it on your own?
Because we're a national
what you're
governing
there
body
for,
and we
Charlie.
follow federal law.
That's what you're there for. Why don't you stand up and say in front of God and country, federal law is wrong, and the NCAA believes in fair competition. We also believe in equality. If you want to, in America, you can be whatever you want to be. You can be whomever you want to be. But our job is to promote fairness in sports.
Our job
Biological males are not going to be allowed to compete against biological females. Why don't you go to Amazon and buy a spine online and take a stand?
So far, so good, right? But then Kennedy asks if biological males have an athletic advantage over biological females. And suddenly Baker freezes up. It's debatable, he says. Debatable? Are you kidding me? Every person who's ever watched a men's and women's track meet knows the difference. Men and women are biologically different. That's not hate, that's science. But Kennedy kept pressing until Baker finally admitted the truth. Yes, males have an advantage. So Kennedy asked the obvious question. Then why do you allow it? And Baker gives the weakest excuse possible. Federal courts made us do it. He said, no federal court has ever ordered the NCAA to allow biological men to compete in women's sports. And he's absolutely right. Not one. Baker flat out lied. The NCAA wasn't forced into anything. They chose to side with the woke mob instead of with female athletes. And who's paying the price? The women. 5 women's volleyball teams had to forfeit games because a biological male played on a rival team. Scholarships lost. Championships gone. And Baker still sits there pretending his hands are tied. Then it gets even worse. Hawley called out the NCAA's policy allowing biological men into women's locker rooms. Showers, bathrooms, the whole thing. And get this. The NCAA's own rules literally say transgender athletes can use facilities that match their gender identity. Meaning, if a man wants to enter the women's locker room, the women have to leave if they're uncomfortable. That's not inclusion, that's insanity. And when he pressed Baker on why that's fair, Baker blamed the local hosts of events. So now it's not his fault. It's the locals. It's the courts. It's everyone's fault except his own. This man runs a multi-billion-dollar organization and still can't grow a backbone and say, this is wrong. Here's the best part. In February 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order banning biological males from competing in women's sports at schools that get federal funding. And guess what? The same Charlie Baker who spent years whining about needing clarity suddenly announced that the NCAA would align its policies with a new rule. So all that talk about legal confusion, gone. It was never about the law. It was about fear. And that, my friends, is the difference between weak leadership and real leadership. When someone like Trump takes a stand, the cowards fold instantly. Listen, fairness in sports isn't complicated. It's common sense. Women deserve a level playing field. They deserve privacy, respect, and equal opportunity, not to be shoved aside for political correctness. So to Charlie Baker and the NCAA, Stop hiding behind fake excuses. Show some courage. Or step aside for people who still believe in truth, fairness, and the integrity of women's sports. Because in America, fairness is not negotiable. Not now, not ever. Stay strong, stay free, and as always, patriots, never stop fighting for truth. United States,